Hey Cyclone fans, welcome back to another episode of Cyclone InCYders. I'm Matt Van Winkle, joined this week by Sam Turner. Sam's going to be joining us throughout the rest of the semester on Cyclone InCYders. Andrew Schneider, who was our old host, is going to come in, talk volleyball, talk some football as well later in the semester. But let's get things started, Sam. We were at the game yesterday against Western Illinois. Kind of an interesting game for Iowa State because they're just coming off that game against Iowa, that 9-6 kind of, dull game. Iowa State really wanted to score more offensively. We saw a great defensive performance from Iowa State, though, holding Western Illinois to just 3 points.
It was great, and like you said, coming off that Iowa game, you weren't really sure exactly what kind of performance you were going to get from Iowa State. A huge emotional win there at Kinnick Stadium. Obviously an overmatched opponent in Western Illinois, but when you look at the score, it really looks good there for Iowa State. But it's not without things that they can work on going ahead.
Absolutely, and everything got started off with that 14-0 run Iowa State had. In just the first 5 minutes, Steele Jantz connecting with James White, 56-yard touchdown run for James White to get things started off. And that's when things you thought, Iowa State might get things rolling, keep things moving, scored another touchdown. But really, that was basically pretty much it for the first half. Chris Young, I think, had another touchdown later in that first half, but really, Iowa State, I wanted to see a little bit more of them out of that. Right out of the gate, they started that 14-0 run. I wanted to see a little bit more, keep going. But Steele Jantz really did look pretty good in the game. He only threw one interception, had a fumble. But what were your thoughts kind of overall Steele Jantz's performance coming off that Iowa
It
win?
was good overall. He had a high completion percentage.
Yep.
Once again, obviously, that turnover wasn't good. He had the interception and the fumble. When he scrambles, he can tend to be a little turnover prone. And that interception, though, the interception might not have been his fault. We were talking about this play earlier. There was two receivers right in the same area within about 3 yards of each other. I'm not sure if the guy who tipped the ball, that's who the pass was intended for, but it led to an interception, so it's tough to say that it's necessarily his fault on that interception.
Yeah, and we've seen kind of two forms of Steele Jantz already this year. We saw against Tulsa, just goes out there, has a great completion percentage, really throws the ball well. Had a couple turnovers against Iowa. Kind of some poor decision making, and that's what we saw from Steele Jantz last year. We saw, we can see what he could do against Iowa. We saw what he could do against UNI. Did a really good job, and then we can see also what he does, maybe against a Texas where he goes down kind of with an injury. When things get rattled, and Steele Jantz, when it gets into his head, that's really when he doesn't perform well. But we know how mobile he can be. We know how he can create space in the pocket. So Steele Jantz, I think, moving forward in the Big 12, I think we wanted to see we got what we wanted to see out of him in those first 3 games. And I think this was a good game to get them kind of moving into the Big 12, kind of a good matchup for them just because they could put a lot of points on the board, Sam.
Yeah, obviously we talked about Western Illinois being an overmatched opponent.
Yeah.
So coming into this game, it's kind of one of those tune-up games where you want to see things out of guys that you maybe haven't seen before, and you're kind of nitpicking about little things like turnovers and penalties that they didn't do so well in this ball game. But they also got a chance to kind of clear their bench. I mean, you were seeing the 2s and the 3s.
Yeah.
You saw the 2s midway through the third quarter. You saw the 3s there in the fourth quarter. So things like that's going to be a big, big help when moving forward.
Absolutely. Let's talk about those kind of guys like Jared Barnett and Sam Richardson that did get in there. Jared Barnett goes in the third quarter, and that whole controversy preseason was if Steele Jantz or Jared Barnett was going to get the starting job, and Steele Jantz wins that, and I wanted to see what Jared Barnett was going to do out there, and I was kind of glad we got to see him. Goes out there and was 4 of 9 from the field. I think threw for about 30 yards, but had that one interception. And talking to him after the game, he said, that was just a bonehead decision on my end. Really didn't read that play well. He didn't make all of his checks, and I think he really said he felt rusty out there, and that's understandable. Jared Barnett, we know what kind of quarterback he is. We saw him last year. He's a Big 12 quarterback. He's played in a lot of important games for Iowa State, especially that Oklahoma State game. He's played in a bowl game. So you know what he's got? He's got what it takes to be a Big 12 quarterback. But when you don't go out there and you're not playing every day, you're playing with the second string guys in practice. It's tough to go out there, and even against a team like Western Illinois, to go out there and play consistently.
And Rose talked about it a little bit in the press conference. Obviously, Barnett didn't play that well.
Right.
4 of 9 with that interception.
Yeah.
He didn't look comfortable in the pocket whatsoever. No. He after about 2 seconds, he'd go and scramble off. But Rhodes talked about it in the press conference. He said, I'm not too worried about Jared's play.
Right.
He's shown he had those starts last year. Obviously played against Big 12 opponents already, so it's not something that you're really concerned about going ahead. It's just probably those jitters of him not getting playing time so far this season.
Right, and I think Iowa State fans are comfortable if Jared Barnett ever does have to go in there, because he's a smart quarterback. He can make good decisions. He's got a pretty good arm, and he's pretty mobile as well. But another guy that got in there, Sam Richardson, he's that redshirt freshman that a lot of guys like. Courtney Messingham, the offensive coordinator, is really high on this guy, as is Paul Rhodes, and got a really good arm, got a strong arm, and late in that fourth quarter leads Iowa State to a touchdown drive, Sam.
He did a good job.
Yeah.
He obviously didn't throw the ball at all, but it was a lot of handoffs.
Right,
and
right.
He kept it himself a couple times, and he looked good there.
He's smart, yeah.
You're not quite sure about his mobility, but he looked good in this game. And obviously, like we keep saying, it's great when you're able to clear your bench, give these guys who don't really have any playing time experience, give them minutes out on the field.
And absolutely. And let's look at the running back position. Obviously, James White, Chantrell Johnson, the two guys, Jeff Woody as well. Those two or three guys there carrying most of the load for Iowa State this year. But Devondrick Neely and Rob Standard got in there yesterday, and I thought Devondrick Neely looked as quick as we thought he would be. You hear all this hype from Coach Rhodes that Devondrick Neely is this, quick guy, makes a lot of jukes, and we saw that yesterday. We saw him break a couple ankles, carry the ball 9 carries for 70 yards. Rob Standard carried the ball 7 times for 30 yards and had a touchdown at the end. So I thought we saw really good stuff out of those second and third string guys.
So you saw 5 running backs yesterday, like you said.
Just
Devondrick Neely, 9 carries for 70 yards, no touchdowns for him, but he averaged 7.8 yards per carry. I mean, that was impressive. Every time he was getting the ball, he was breaking a tackle, he was making a move. It seemed like every 2 carries he was picking up the first down. And then obviously Rob Standard is the other redshirt freshman that we've heard a ton about. A lot of talent going forward. And it was just great to see those guys out of there succeeding.
Yeah, definitely good to see those guys that work so hard in practice get out there and get some nice reps, especially as we look into the Big 12 season. Some big games coming up. If a guy goes down, it's nice to know that there's those guys right there behind him. Let's talk about the defense really quick, Sam. Haven't allowed a touchdown since that first game at Tulsa, obviously, against Iowa. Hold them to 2 field goals. Yesterday against Western Illinois, just hold them to 1 field goal. Pretty good stuff from the defense so far this year.
1 field goal and only 103 yards given up, and they didn't even get into the red zone more than 1 time, I believe, in the ball game.
Yeah.
Very, very solid defensive effort. And even going later in the game, when you got the backups in there, still doing their jobs, when Western Illinois is still playing their starting guys, the backups go in there, still hold solid. I mean, not giving up a touchdown in 2 games, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and the one stat line that really stood out to me was that Iowa State defense held Western Illinois 2 of 16 on third down conversions. Really something that Iowa State kind of struggled against Iowa. Let them late in that third and fourth quarters. They let them off the hook, and I think that's something that they really wanted to step up in, especially a game against Western Illinois, a team that's not as powerful of an offense. Really something that they wanted to capitalize on with those middle linebackers, Jake Knott, Jeremiah George, A.J. Klein. I think that three-headed monster at linebacker really stopped the run and really was what kept Western Illinois from getting even in the red zone.
They did a great job, and that 2 of 16 on third downs is a huge stat.
Yeah.
Because that's defense that leads to offense. So you're getting the opposing offense off the field, giving your offense more chances to score. And obviously it paid off, 37 points for Iowa State. A lot of people didn't think they could score that many points, but they sure did in this game.
7 penalties for the Iowa State offense and defense, though. That's something I think that they need to clean up, though, moving forward, especially as they get into the Big 12 games where really every drive counts. You can't be making those bonehead mistakes.
Well, it's so funny because you look at the score, 37-3.
Yeah.
5 years ago, if you would have said that Iowa State beat a team 37-3, you'd been, that's awesome.
That's
great.
one of the biggest blowouts they've had in a while.
Yeah, and it was a great score looking at that way, but it's funny because you can tell the culture has changed a little bit because of 37-3. It's a huge win, obviously, but still fans, and I know for me personally, there's a bit of a sour taste in my mouth just based off the performance because there's those things, those 3 turnovers, those 7 penalties, there's those things that you can nitpick at and say, hey, you need to clean these up because this is the type of game where you don't want to see things like that.
They've got a bye week coming up, Sam, and I think it comes at a good time. They've got some time to rest. Got Texas Tech coming up next Saturday. Well, not this coming Saturday, but the Saturday after that. Texas Tech is a much improved team from last year, so look for Iowa State to keep improving, keep moving forward. You remember that game against Texas Tech last year down there in Texas. Iowa State just went in there and roughed them up, so it should be a good game.
It should, definitely, and obviously going into this bye week, the players not so excited about the bye week because obviously they want to be out there and play, but it's good as far as a transition period in the schedule, coming off the 3 non-conference game, moving into that brutal Big 12 schedule. It's a good time to kind of shift their focus, get ready for what the Big 12 teams are going to present because it's a lot different than what they saw in their first 3 games.
Absolutely. It's a good game for Iowa State to start the Big 12 season. They're going to need to get 3 more wins. I think they can do it to get to a bowl game. Tougher Big 12 schedule this year with TCU, obviously, in West Virginia coming to the conference. So we'll look forward to that game next Saturday against Texas Tech. Coming up after the break, our volleyball insider, Meredith Sprague, will be joined in studio by volleyball outside hitter Mackenzie Bigbee. You won't want to miss it. You're watching Cyclone InCYders.
It's great to be 3-0 as a football team, finishing up non-conference schedule. Certainly one of our objectives. Now we roll into an open week and have to improve as a football team. I've said before, I don't agree that your most improvement comes from week 1 to week 2. We're going to set out to see how much improvement we could make in the open week and then the week's preparation for the Texas Tech football game.
Welcome back. I'm Meredith Sprague, and I'm joined here with Mackenzie Bigbee in the studio today. She's a freshman on the volleyball team. She's been starting and having a heck of a season so far. Yesterday, you came into, Nebraska came into Ames. They're ranked number 1, and you guys beat them in 4 games. How sweet was it?
It was freaking awesome. It was so exciting, just like going in. And like we had like such a good feeling. Everyone on the team was like, "Oh, I just have a good feeling about this," and everyone was just so pumped to play. And then going and coming out, starting so strong, it was awesome. And then having such a big crowd there to support us too, I think really helped.
So after the second game, when you guys went back, I mean, was it hard to kind of keep calm and maintain like not a sense of freak out in the locker room? You guys are beating the number 1 team, and you're not just beating them; you're 2 games ahead.
Yeah. We got back there and everyone is just like kind of jittery, and our seniors are just like, we have to stay calm, like we have to keep level, we have to go. We knew that they were going to come out fighting because obviously they're the number 1 team and they're not used to being beat like that. And so we just had to like stay calm and just expect from ourselves to keep playing like we were before.
Now that was your first really big game. Were you nervous beforehand? I mean, you had to be a little antsy. It was the first just tournament play, correct?
Yeah.
So how are you feeling beforehand?
I wasn't nervous at all, actually. I was just really excited because Iowa State and Nebraska in volleyball, they've always seemed to have that rivalry. And so, like, finally being able to be a part of it and play in it instead of just watching it, I was just excited.
It seemed a few times in the games you guys had a little trouble getting over their blocks, though. Can you talk about how you adjusted to kind of, towards the end of the game, you guys were able to execute and make kills and everything?
Yeah. A big thing is, like, without a system balls, you have to really, like, focus and get your feet there. And we've been working on that in practice the week before. And so, like, one of the things with me, sometimes I tend to just drop my shoulder when I hit. So I just have to, like, constantly remind myself, get my feet there and swing high.
Now, upcoming, you move into Big 12 play. Is there anything that you guys are really focused on as a team? Any goals you have coming up for the next few matches?
I think just we're going to have a goal to keep playing at the same level that we played the past weekend. Like, we all know that we're capable of playing at that level, and so now our focus needs to be on doing that every night.
A couple weeks ago, a phenomenal thing happened, 25 kills in 1 match. You're a freshman and you're able to produce that. How do you do it? I mean, you seem so calm on the court. Tell me about it.
I didn't even know about it at first, and then after the game, Rachel Hockaday is like, "Does that even faze you? 20-some kills?" I'm like, no, I didn't know. So, but I don't know. When I'm on the court, I'm just like focused and determined. Like, I just go point by point. Like, all I'm thinking is like, we have to win this game. We have to win this game. So I just want to do whatever I can to help the team win.
Right. So it's not like you're sitting there being like, "Oh man, I'm at 24.
I gotta get that next one.
Gotta get that next one." You were I just tied it. That's all I had.
That's all. No, I don't. I honestly don't even know until the next day when someone's like, "Oh, that's so awesome." I'm like, "What's so awesome? We won? Yeah, that's awesome." They're like, "No, 25 kills." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Yeah."
Now, is there anything specific that you yourself, I asked you earlier if your team had some goals for the season. Is there anything, I mean, you have 25 kills. Well, do you have more goals that you want to break, more things that you set for yourself each game at all, other than just contributing to the team?
I don't have any, like record, like, I'm not like, oh, I want to break this record and that record. I do think that I could work on my blocking a lot more. Like, it's not that great right now, and so I want to continue to work on that so that I can be more of like a defensive presence on the court too. But I don't know, other than that.
Now, you're playing with people you've never played with before. So on things when it comes to blocking, is it a lot of communication and timing? I mean, it's really key, and these are people you've had to replace, people that they're used to playing with. Is that something that you feel like you guys need to work on?
Yeah, blocking, a huge part of blocking is like communicating and timing, like you said. And so it's kind of hard, like, and for Iowa State we swing block, and in high school I never swung block before. So, like, adjusting to that and the timing and, like, learning how to do it correctly has also been a little bit of a challenge. But I think, like, as I continue to practice, I need to, like, work on, like, telling the middles, like, okay, here, or, like, being more verbal about when I move the block and stuff. I think that will help a lot.
Now, you guys had a little bit of a rough weekend before the Nebraska game. Do you kind of feel like this game helped you move over that hump that you, like you said, you felt like everyone was playing at their best game, and you feel like that's really important for you guys as a team? It really seemed like you were playing together, like you said, that everyone just had, I mean, your middles had a great game, your outsides had a great game, your defense had some ups that were just amazing, you know, so you feel like now that you guys are over that hump, you just can progress from there?
Yeah, after that last weekend, you know, like, we really buckled down in practice, and we, like, the coaches really got on us to, like, go all out during practice, and I think that really helped. And then, like, as you saw yesterday, everyone was doing great, and so I think that is a big key for future success. Like, if everyone can continue to develop more and we can build off what we did last weekend, I think that will really help.
Now, do you guys have any specific leaders on the team? Are your seniors really vocal, and is there anyone specific that's kind of, I don't know, taking you under their wing and kind of guided you as a freshman?
The seniors are, like, pretty much all the returning players are really vocal, and, like, everyone on the team, they're really good leaders. And but for me, I guess Kristen Hahn, she played for the same club as me, and so I always joke and call her my mom because she's, like, taking me under the wing. She's like, do this, do that. Or, like, if I'm having a little bit of a rough patch, she'll be like, just don't think, just play, you got it, you're fine.
She actually kind of seems like that to a lot of people on the court. She really seems as though she is kind of the per se leader, as when someone does something, she always is there to, you know, tell them to shake it off. Or do you think that her presence, that on the court is really, really valuable to your team?
Yeah, I think so, because every once in a while, you know, everyone will get in, like, a little funk, and she's just there kind of like the mother hen, like, you're fine, like, shake it off, forget about it, next point. And I think that's really important, because if you, like, sometimes you're just stuck in a head game with yourself, and then that can really send you down. But if you have someone there telling you to shake it off, like, next point, forget about it, it really helps a lot.
Absolutely. With these next few games coming up, is there anything specific that your coach is kind of telling you to help you? Does Chrissy kind of guide you? You are a freshman, you are starting, you're being thrown in there. Has she kind of, you know, sat down with you and just been like, this is what I kind of expect out of you, this is what I want you to produce? And is that intimidating as a player?
She has sat down with me and kind of told me, like, how I've become, like, a terminator for the team, and that's how she expects me, like, that will be my role and stuff. But I don't really think it doesn't really intimidate me. I like knowing things like that, because then it's like I have this goal for myself, like, this is what the coaches want from me, so then it, like, drives me to be the best that I can.
Now, the intimidator, so does that mean that when you guys were in the fifth game, you know, and you just needed to get that final point, that the kill is going to go to you? Like, that's what she's basically saying, is that the setter is going to give the ball to you.
Yeah, she basically, she told me, I call these people aircraft carriers, and she said, So whenever, like, no matter how bad the pass is, we can just throw the ball up to you and we'll know that you'll get a kill. So yeah, basically what you said.
I mean, that's got to feel pretty great to know that. I mean, it's a great responsibility, but at the same time, like, it must give you some confidence too.
Yeah, it does. It's definitely like, okay, I have to do this, like, this is my role, but at the same time, it's like a nice confidence because, like, the coaches have faith in me that I can carry this out.
What was really noticeable at Hilton yesterday was how many fans there were. There were so many fans, and it was so pumped. And then you got to witness Cyclone fans at the football game yesterday. I mean, how fun is it to be on the court, having those people cheer you on?
It's just an amazing feeling, like, knowing that people are coming out to support you because they love the school and they just want to come out and support the student athletes. It's a really great feeling. It really helps you, like, stay pumped on the court.
Absolutely. I guess just one more question is, before your game, do you have a little ritual you do? Is there anything that, like, I have to listen to this song or I have to do this before the game, or are you pretty...
No, I'm not really, like, superstitious or anything at all. I just kind of, like, chill, listen to the music. Most of the time, I'm studying my scout sheet, really. I guess the only ritual that I do.
Now, do you get a scout sheet for every game then?
Yeah, we have scout sheets, and then we, when we meet with the coaches before the game, they kind of, like, quiz us over just to make sure we've been actually looking at them and stuff.
So you're not only studying hard math classes, you're also studying all the other teams in your conference and teams that you play.
Yeah.
Which one do you like studying more? No, I'm kidding.
I would definitely go with the other teams, probably. A little easier.
All right, Mackenzie, thanks so much for joining us. When we come back from the break, we'll have Andrew and Matt break down the Nebraska volleyball game.
Interesting match. You know, neither team hit for very well. I thought we played great defense. We covered really well. You know, we've been working a lot this week on coverage. We've been working on, we call it out of system. So when an outside has to take a swing, when the ball's coming from midcourt, there's two blockers on her. We've been working a lot on that, and I thought, you know, we took some nice choices. We involved the middles a lot, and I thought they got a lot out of them. So just thrilled to do this at home. You know, we needed it. You know, it's been a tough road, and it was a tremendous crowd. Our fans are awesome. You know, they turned out not knowing what to expect, I think, today, and they still came to cheer us on. So we needed that one for a lot of reasons. You know, Nebraska is so good in every position, it's hard to line up on them. We really tried to focus on their outsides, and they still, you know, had a field day on us. So, you know, they've got talent, and you know, I think we just were able to outlast them there a little bit at the end of each of those games.
Welcome back to Cyclone InCYders. Want to give a big thank you to Mackenzie Bigbee for stopping in the studio to talk with our Meredith Sprague. I thought she did a great job, Andrew. She was a big factor in this game against Nebraska that Iowa State ended up winning on Saturday, Andrew. But she didn't. It wasn't all her. She had a lot of help from girls that were struggling in the season. One in particular, Jamie Straube, who we were really looking forward to have a good match against Nebraska.
Yeah, and you said it. There's a lot of things that were working very well, and Mackenzie said it in her interview as well, that were working very well for the Cyclone volleyball team. I think that they played their best game so far this season, from top to bottom. Nebraska didn't play very well, but I think at the same time, Nebraska not playing well is still better than most teams. And really, defensively, they were on top of it. A lot of great ups, a lot of great stuff from the back row. Just some very long volleys, I think, that played advantage and played to the advantage of the Cyclones. There was a lot of back and forth points that they were able to get, a lot of those big momentum swingers. And really, there was this great little move they were doing when Landwehr would have a quick set. And then, I know we're going to get to this a little bit later, but both Straube and Matlock were just so good with that quick point right over the top of the net, right in the middle, and Nebraska had no answer for it.
Yeah, Iowa State just seemed like they were jumping on top of Nebraska's errors. Anytime they would slip up or make a mistake, Iowa State was right on top of it. And, you know, Iowa State's been getting into these long 5-set matches, and for them to win the first two, lose the third, you know, it's really easy for a team like that, Iowa State, who's been struggling lately, to just give up in that fourth set, kind of ease up and get tired. But they really just put it on. I think they went out to like a 5-6, 7-0 run to start that fourth set. And Jamie Straube, really, we looked to her. She really did a great job, led the team with Tanisha Matlock in kills, and I thought she was just really the player of the game. And against her former state, you know, she's from Nebraska. She and Tanisha Matlock So to see them get that win against Nebraska was really big.
And for Straube to play as well as she did was even bigger. I know that she's been struggling a lot lately. Just trying to do too much, really. I know we had Corey Weaver on last week, and he said the same thing, where Christy had mentioned that she was just trying to do too much. And really, when you're out there on a team with so many talented players, you can't take on too much responsibility. And I think she was the key last year for this team. She was huge when she was making some big kills in that postseason run. And to have a healthy and well-playing, if you will, Jamie Straube for the Cyclones heading into the Big 12 season, where the only major challenge is going to be Texas. Don't get me wrong, Big 12 is deep as always, but really Texas is going to be the big team to beat again. And if they want that conference championship, they need Jamie Straube to play very well.
Yeah, and we heard Mackenzie talk earlier with Meredith how she needs to improve on her blocking, and that's something that Iowa State's really been struggling. That's what we've been talking about. Tanisha and Jamie. Jamie's been struggling, but for them to step up in this game was huge, and especially in the kills and the block total. But first win for Iowa State against Nebraska in Ames. Second win against them in program history. They went back in 2009 and beat them. And actually, Straube was on that team, as well as Rachel Hockett. I can't remember. I think maybe one of the Cyclone was on that team. But for them to get that win in Ames, it's just a huge win for this program. You know, the fans rushed the court. It was just a great scene at Hilton Coliseum. Big win against #1 team, and I think that's definitely going to help them recruiting-wise, too, in the future.
And I think this is a sign of things that have been building in this program for so long. The volleyball team was way down early part of this decade, and Christy came in, and immediately there was a change in the culture here. She's a respected coach among her fellow peers. She's really changed this program and made coming to Iowa State not only just a challenge like the football team is in that state where Iowa State's no longer a sure win. They're the team that's coming into the favorites in most of these matches. And it's just a huge culture change. And as you said, storming the court, you have all these experienced players out there, just a great feeling out there for the second time beating Nebraska. However, next time if they beat Nebraska, maybe no court storming, because I think this team is real.
And that's the thing, is that Christy wants those wins to be expected for Iowa State. They want that mentality. They want people to, go into these matches thinking Iowa State's got a legit shot to win. And for this team that started, in the top 15 in the rankings, now they dropped to 25 after they lost to Syracuse, had a couple early losses in the season. A big win against Nebraska is going to get them right back up in the rankings. And they start the Big 12 season here pretty soon, Andrew. And you and I both talked to Christy about this after the match yesterday, and we said, is this win against Nebraska, is this going to help you guys moving into the Big 12 season? And she said, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be huge because they're going to be facing just as tough of opponents in the Big 12. You got teams like Texas, Kansas State, and they got Baylor coming into town on next Saturday, So that's going to be a good match to watch for. Got a week off though to prepare, so going to be looking for Iowa State to come out strong. They had a week off against Nebraska, and we saw how that turned out. So I think a week off is definitely going to help them.
Well, and I think Rachel and Tanisha, we also asked in postgame about the same thing.
Yep.
And this is that time of year where last year the team kind of fell into a little bit of a slump, maybe a little bit later than this, but they struggled at times through Big 12 play, and they really had a good early season last year compared to this year where they kind of started pretty slow out of the gates. And I think this year's team has the advantage of having a huge, huge win. Last year, I know they had a couple signature wins, but this is a huge one of the biggest in program history. And I think moving into Big 12 play against teams like Baylor, and we've got Kansas, TCU, K-State, Texas Tech, all coming up here in the next couple weeks, for a team to have this week off, head into Baylor, or rather have Baylor head here, and just play all these tough opponents early in the season. That's the big thing, I think, for this program, is that Christy is not afraid to schedule teams like Illinois who are ranked and really get this team off and running. And I think these early season struggles are really going to help this team coming up next couple weeks.
Absolutely. So you got to think the confidence is definitely really high for this team. Going to look for Iowa State to play Baylor next Saturday at Hilton Coliseum. Hope to see you there. I want to thank Mackenzie Bigbee for stopping in the studio, for joining us with Meredith Sprague and Sam Turner. I'm Matt Van Winkle. Andrew Schneider, thanks for joining us here. You've been watching Cyclone InCYders.